So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome entrepreneur, author, and coach Adelle Green. Welcome, Adele.
Thank you, Karen, for inviting me.
So firstly, I wanted to congratulate you on all your achievements. Can you please share with us more about your journey?
At the moment, I focus on soul abundance coaching for women who transition into owning their own businesses as influencers to
Yes.
make a big impact and to become the source of their own abundance. Um, I, I think I should say my superpower is to activate them to discover their soul lessons in their current challenges in my coaching programs, one-to-one, and my upcoming online group program. But it didn't start that way. I left home at 17 and I had a mini stroke that day, the same day, because it was so unexpected. I studied PR, married my school sweetheart at 23 and moved to Johannesburg with another 8 million people. my career my career as a buyer was fast-tracked in the FMCG industry. My husband died from cancer when I was 27. And I became an active investor and a workaholic. I remarried at 30 and I had 2 boys. But I was emotionally stumped, I think purely as a form of coping. And then I embraced my ex-husband's business and devoted my 30s to every form of creativity that could feed my soul. From, from painting and decorating to poetry. Then it was as if my dormant sensitivity was activated by becoming a mom. I re-entered the workplace as a fashion buyer because I was looking for something, I think, unconsciously. But then I soon discovered that my values has changed. After I moved out of the corporate environment, I continued to launch a full-time coaching practice and eventually got a divorce, traveled the world for a bit, and published my first book on relationships. After deciding that the man I need can only be God incarnated, I met and married my soulmate, and by now I'm starting a completely new life for the 4th time. Next year, when I celebrate my 7th anniversary, before I turn 50, I will once again start a completely new life in a brand new country with a suitcase. So for me, life is a lot of fun, and I seem to have become an expert at transforming it.
Amazing, amazing. So, Adele, when in your career did you get into the personal coaching space, and how did you decide what your speciality of coaching, you decided to focus on?
I always seem to be in transition in my life. So when I walked away from the national corporate buying position from a leading South African retail giant, because I felt that my values were no longer aligned with the business driven by mere numbers, there was a few synchronistic events that lined up, and it led me to qualify as a meta-coach and a kinesiologist, and this was in 2007. I then combined the 2 skills in my own full-time coaching practice, which I launched in 2007. Because I've worked on female products, both in clothing, cosmetics, and toiletries, I felt very comfortable with understanding the needs and the profiles of women. So working with beauty on the inside was a big factor for me in deciding to focus on women and lifestyle empowerment. What I didn't expect was the empathic and intuitive skills that would hone my own skills to market and focus on the soul challenges of women to create sustainable life milestones for them.
So you're the author of a book called Can You See Me Naked? Can you please share with us what the book is about and what was the inspiration behind the book?
I always get big question marks when people say the name and you see the reactions. So this is a personal development book that helps those who read it to grow by understanding their relationships in a different way. The full name of the book is Can You See Me Naked? Grow in a Conscious Relationship. And I'm very lucky that every Amazon review is a 5-star review to date. Many people who have difficulty with their relationship experience a breakthrough when they discover how reflection and mirroring in relationships consciously bring new perspectives about themselves. And Can You See Me Naked invites people to strip from their stories and blaming their partners to take their power back. So the way the book was written came from a very deep, authentic voice that I don't even know was there. My ex actually asked me to write a letter to him after the divorce to explain to him why I left. So one Monday, I was unexpectedly open for a whole week in my diary after the event was postponed. I wrote him this letter then, but I wrote it in my personal journal, not intending to ever send it to him. So this allowed me to be super personal and honest. But by the end of the Monday, I was still writing. And on Tuesday, I continued writing.
Wow.
At about 9, I know, at about 9 a.m., I received an email in my inbox from Hay House about a non-fiction book competition. And all of a sudden, a thought popped into my mind, am I writing a book? So by the Friday, I had finally stopped writing. And in front of me was 76,000 words. It took me, Karen, a whole year and many, many edits to find the guts to publish it. But I realized that I'd given words to what women experience, who feel unheard and unseen in their relationships. So now when men read it and start interesting conversations with their partners, curiosity kind of takes over, and the women also read it. So women find in the book words for feelings that they have, and the book really is life-changing.
So your focus is on both men and women, but predominantly on women. What are some of the biggest challenges and struggles that women have, and why do you think women come to you for guidance and coaching, and can you give us some examples?
You know, this is a very good question, and it often keeps me up at night because I find that over the 12 years of coaching, I've covered such a huge spectrum of topics, and it makes it very hard to say you do this or you do this, and which obviously is very important for business. So I would say that the most common issue over the years is that women do not have confidence to do what they feel in their hearts they must do.
Absolutely.
There's a logic and feelings inside of them that are in conflict. So they don't have the know-how, and they often feel overwhelmed by their dreams. I mean, literally by their dreams, and wanting to make a difference in the world. So they just take a little bit of information from free resources and other, let's say good marketers, and then they don't get the results they desire. So by the time they come to me for expert advice, that's when I show them how to fully commit, and that their full commitment is not there. And that's often the really big issue that I deal with. Now, you can imagine for me, who spent my whole life reinventing myself, if you like to call it that, or, circumstances creates transformations for me. I understand that you're either all in or you're not, and what 100%. The repercussions are of that. So it shows up for people when they procrastinate to implement, or when they start to feel stuck, and I personally feel that the wellness industry is just flooded with coaching training, instead of actually providing women with the structures that they really need to make themselves the source of their own abundance, which leads to them reaching their own dreams and executing the things that they really feel in their hearts that they want to do, which logically doesn't seem to make sense to them. So even when women in relationships don't do what they need to do because they say that they don't have their own resources, it's just another place where exactly the same thing shows up. So on a practical level, I help them to create entrepreneurial structures from which to profit and align the impact that they can have in their own lives. So when there's energy flowing in a business model that is corrected with the boundaries that needs to be there, the inner work also happens. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. So what happens in your business is often also happening in your relationships, and it's often also happening in your relationship with money. Everything is affected, and the evidence of the progress once we work together will show up in many areas of their lives, not just that one particular area. So I'm very aware that my clients are finding me because, for them, these are big soul shifts. It's not just a change in their life because it's a big decision that affects the rest of their life. It's also directly linked to the up-leveling on a soul level for them. And I know that sometimes people go like, oh, I'm not so ready for this stuff, you know, but that's really, for me, the perfect clients that when I work with them, whether they're aware of it or not, I hold the space and that's what they work with.
Yeah.
So, you know, I help them through one-to-one coaching programs, obviously, and an upcoming online group program that I want to launch because I realize that I need to help more people and I only have so much capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you work with a lot of empaths. There are many layers to empaths and many are misunderstood. What are some of your coaching tools you guide your clients, and can you give our listeners or give us a tangible example that has worked to help your clients?
That's a very good question because it's a frequently spoken about topic and I feel very misunderstood topic because people approach it from two angles. They either fall in the I dump my emotion stuff category, or they fall in the category of, you know, I'm an empath. And then you can border on victim mentality if you fall in the shadow side of it. In other words, the more ill-informed you are, the more you're going to feel like a victim. So that's where a lot of the coaching work comes in. So, you know, we also attract clients who are like us. So I'm very aware that the clients that I work with benefit from the things that I had to learn myself. And so how I learned how to manage my own energetic and emotional boundaries is what I teach them. For example, women are being activated more now than ever before to become sensitive, actually, and we don't know why. We all can speculate and have our opinions about it, but the bottom line is that there's more of them being activated to be sensitive and less of them knowing how to switch off from feeling other people's emotions.
Yes.
You know, these women become anxious, they become overwhelmed. To give you an example, when I was in the corporate world all those many years ago, I shared an open plan office with 1,600 other people. I could only work with headphones on, which at that stage was unusual. Today, everybody would walk around with headphones, but I used to have an iPod and permanently have headphones in my ear so I could block out, you know, picking up on people's stuff. I had to learn to switch off feeling from people's stuff because it made me moody or depressed. And that wasn't my natural state. So people who are sensitive are like sponges and they absorb everyone's emotions in a room. So if I'm speaking directly to the people who are empaths, who absolutely know they are empaths, you know, it's other people will feel better when they're around you, but you'll feel awful.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like you are a sponge and they are just like this person who just penetrates your space. That's what it feels like. And people say you're oversensitive or, you know, especially if you're highly sensitive. But that's just because they don't actually understand what's going on inside of you. There's research now that says that it can actually be painful to hear too much. You know, it physically experience it as pain in your body. Sometimes people dump their emotions on you because it makes them feel good to be around you, but your energy is drained. So I think that's, you know, those are quite a few examples. But the result is a lot of these people become artificially introverted. They're not necessarily introverted, but they learn to hide. They prefer to be alone because then they feel better physically. So the skill I teach them is to manage their energy, the moods, how to maintain a high vibe that easily transmute lower energies without draining them, and then how to recognize it when it happens. So there are some tips, you know, that I can mention here if you struggle as an empath. And the first one is learn to meditate so that you can become aware of what does your energy feel like. And then when somebody else's energy field is absorbed by you, you know that this does not belong to you, can give it back. It's you have a responsibility, of course, to process your own emotions, but not those of others. So it might then feel better, or you might feel like, oh, you're doing them a favor, but you're not. They're just going to come back and you're going to do the same thing, and they don't even know what's going on. So they're not appreciative. They're not valuing it. To give you an example quickly, my son is a highly sensitive empath, and he was very young, and he got in the car after school one day and he said to me, you know, mommy, I get very angry at my friends. And I said, why? He said, when I have a bad day, nobody makes me feel better. And I said to him, what do you mean, James? And he said, you know, mom, the other day, I can't remember what the little boy's name was. He said, the other day, so-and-so had a bad day, and I sat with him and I helped him to feel better. And he was playing soon enough. He said, but today I didn't feel good and nobody helped me. And you know, why does that happen? And he was very upset. So I explained to him, he's an empath. And you know, not everybody has that ability. So you cannot, you're going to feel used. You're going to feel angry when people don't return the favor. But the truth is, not everybody has the capacity.
No.
Nor would you want to. You know, nobody's going to give you energy for free.
No.
In one form or another is energy that we exchange on this planet. So you are not being responsible when you just go and not take care of your energy. That is your responsibility. And when you don't feel right about something, you have intense emotions, know when they are yours and process them. Don't blame other people because you're an empath, because that's victim mentality. You know,
100%.
own your stuff. And when it's not yours, give it back. So the second tip I have is not to take anything personally that people tell you.
Yes, very true.
You can write this down if you have to. You know, their opinion is none of your business.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with you. It's their own projections. And to top it, you almost always will invite other people into your absorbing energy field, and they'll like just tell you their stuff. And then you're going to feel drained and they feel better. So find things to say in conversations that put boundaries on your energy. You know, even if you have to keep notes of, so that in that moment, instead of being pulled down by the energy, you could say to them, you know, I know a really good coach you can talk to, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
One-liners. And then the third tip I have is to make yourself the most interesting person in the room. And this is like such a far-fetched idea for us, because we think we have to make people feel better, because most of us have done it since childhood, but it's nonsense.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, you will automatically, when you walk into a room, it's like your energetic antennas spread out to everybody. Yeah. So you need to keep it from probing in your environment. And the only way to do that is to make yourself the most interesting person in the room.
Yeah,
Think about yourself. Think about what's interesting about you. Probe into your own space. It will not only add to your value, it will also keep you from picking up other people's stuff. And empaths do it automatically.
Yeah.
So, you know, remember also that there's no way that something can upset you if that thing is not also dormant in you.
Yeah,
so coach who understands this about you when you get coaching, or else much of what you learn will actually be counterproductive, because what works for people who are not empaths don't necessarily work for empaths. You have to keep that in consideration. So I just want to give you an example of what I mean when I say, you know, something can be dormant in you, and that's why it upsets you, because that's your own stuff you've got to own, not the other person's.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a client, let's call her Anne. So my client Anne used to get really upset when people implied that she was stupid, although she was really very well educated.
Yeah.
If they said something basic to her, she would become highly irritated and rude, not in understanding why. She would get flustered and unable to express how she feels about what happened, instead of logically working in a team. So when someone made a mistake, she would act enraged, and people around her would avoid her and not work with her. It got under her skin when people would say things like, do you understand? And they'd say it to prevent her from having an outburst, because it was like walking on eggshells around her.
Yeah.
But you know, it got under her skin. So why, when she's so accomplished, do people treat her like she has no value? That's what she felt like.
Yeah.
So unknowingly, an empath would tap into other people's fears and push it away. And this is what it looks like. When the fear was also inside her, but it was dormant, after I worked with her and it came up in a safe environment between the two of us, and Anne could own it, people would start to include her in their teams because of the valuable input she could offer. Now, what used to get under her skin, it's just how she felt. Now, what used to get under her skin was actually an opportunity for her to nurture someone else going through their own fears, instead of resisting, to process it for them. which was what pushed them away before. So the moral of the story is the soul actually resists these people.
Yes.
It's not you. It's not your ego. It's not your unwillingness to help them.
Yes.
The soul will push you not to do it. It would create things and environments and circumstances. You know, an empath can stand in a queue, and there can be friction between people, but they don't talk about it. And
Yes.
the empath will be the person where all that energy is directed because you absorb that information. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you'd say the most unlikely thing. You don't even know what the hell you just said, and you look stupid.
Yeah.
And everybody looked at you. You know, so if you recognize those kind of things, you're definitely an empath, and you will absorb things in your environment. So the better way would be to figure out what the things that you need to work with on yourself, and when those situations happen, you don't get put in awkward situations, and you know how to deal with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to the next question. What have been some of your biggest career highlights, and what are some of your biggest lessons and learnings in your career?
This always shows what people value when they say something. So I think for me, I've been fortunate that I gained a big social media network across platforms.
Yes.
I'm probably close to 100,000 people by now in my network, and it's not because of focus, which is the typical thing in business. I think it's because I've used my voice to share a lot of my transformation spaces. So people will connect with me from different spaces.
Yes.
But I have created a big website. There's 137 blogs currently and about 800 pages. I get a really good hit rate, and, you know, there's a lot of insights and resources on there for people on a deeper level if they want to understand what goes on with them. I have a podcast series called Naked with Adele. It's got over 250,000 downloads to date, and it is there to show people, you to teach people through role models and women that I consider to be feminine leaders in the industry and their journeys. I have won 2 Essay Blog Awards. I've supported my own newspaper column in the Saturday Star and on radio on Mix 93.8 called Ask Adele. And what I did was I answered relationship questions for people. I also published my first solo book, Can You See Me Naked? Grown a Conscious Relationship, and another book called Empowering Women, where I was a co-author, and that's a New York bestseller series. Thank God I got nominated for awards. But often I put my work before the time it takes to fill in forms and go through the process. So more than often I say no to appearing on stages, you know, where my gifts are often acknowledged. But this year I was invited to be guest speaker in Tokyo on the World Summit for Traditional Healing. I've had a few radio and TV show invites. I've even been nominated for a TEDx talk. So, you know, it tells me that life is giving me a clear message to play globally. And I think that as far as career highlights is concerned, you know, over time, there are always more and more stuff happening. But to me, it's not about all the different things that I've achieved. It's where I am now. And that's one of the things you learn to own in a transformation space, because it doesn't matter what you did yesterday. It matters where you are now.
100%. So that leads me to the next question. What do you feel separates and makes you different from others in the coaching space? And also, the world is so overloaded with coaches. Everyone is a coach and author, etc. So what do you believe makes you unique and different? And what do you think separates you from other people or other people within the space?
You know, coaching in general improves personal growth and performance, so we need many coaches.
Yes.
And a lot when it comes to coaching, you operate on a performance level, a developmental level, or a transformation level. So there are many great coaches who work in the transformation space where I am. I also know that when I work with clients, I work directly with their soul evolution. So maybe that's one thing that sets me apart. But often when I work with clients, I dream about them, sometimes even before I meet them for the first time. So it is very clear for me that I work with very specific people, because when I work with them, we work on the soul evolution and how it looks like in this lifetime. But for me, there's clear alignment that my clients are perfect for me when I activate them on a very deep level. So in practical terms, it's harder to say this or that because the outcomes are not always the same for people. But what is the same is the up-leveling on the soul level. And I think that that makes me different. I'm not scared to talk about it. I'm not scared to talk about the sensitivities or the weirdness. And often part of the client's process is how they learn how to interpret their physical world and what it looks like when the soul communicates to them. And, you know, how everything is interrelated, how synchronistic events shows up when your soul comes into alignment with itself. So it's almost like the people that I work with, it's like the soul path and the desires that they have, the things that gives them joy or the things that comes into alignment when I work with them. So it's not always as practical as have a divorce or learn how to go through personal growth in your existing relationship. People can't come to me and then, they often do, they will come to me and they say, I need a divorce, but I don't know how to do it. You know, and then what will come out of the coaching program is they were never meant to have a divorce. They were meant to work through the mirroring process and discover how to recommit to their partners on a completely new level in a conscious relationship. And other times, you know, people will come to me and say, oh, you know, I'm involved in this affair and what do I do? And then what will come out of that would be that they need to go and explore it instead of resisting it. And then what will happen is they'll learn how to own their own values. They never get into the affair, you know, they completely align with their soulmate, who's the person they're already married to. So it's different for everybody. In the workspace where you work more with confidence, it has a lot to do with showing them how they need to open their channels to receive money, you know, as basic as that. So, but it comes directly from the soul space. It's the soul that wants them to receive. And then sometimes people can't even say, I love money, because they are spiritually awake people, and, you know, the two worlds just don't come together for them. So it can show up in many formats for me, but it always comes down to the one common denominator, and that's understanding the soul essence, how to read it, and how to guide your life accordingly.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So women have amazing and brilliant ideas, but one of the biggest challenges women face is confidence. Why do you think this is still a challenge, and how do you think we are still challenged as women? And what do you coach women on this, or how do you coach women on this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we already touched on it also. So, you know, to go a little bit deeper, women in particular say that they don't have resources to act. You know, I don't have money, I don't have time, I'm juggling this, I'm doing that, and they hustle. So with that comes a waiting energy that's underneath the excuses. You know, but they believe the excuses is the truth for them. They see it as a huge obstacle and they can't see beyond it. So in turn, when you work with those lack of resources, let's call them that, which you think you need the confidence for, because that's what we think. We think it's confidence we need. Then you actually just create more circumstances for yourself with more waiting energy, more obstacles, more things that's like, I first got to do this before I can get there, and there is where I actually want to be. So to break it, women need to commit, and I touched on this. So I just want to do a quick comparison. So you know how sometimes men do things quicker with less, right? We know this as women, and we think it's confidence, but men have less issues around making a commitment. When you commit to what you really want from your big idea, and to draw it closer to you, when you commit, you actually, instead of putting more obstacles in place, you link directly with the end result of what you want. For example, when you take the risk to choose what you really want by acting on it, even if it's in the smallest possible way for you, you show the universe that you're serious. So confidence comes when we achieve results. It's like a chicken and egg thing. So when you get the results, you're automatically confident. So if you try to get confidence before you act, it's almost like that fake it till you make it concept. But
which is very bad.
Well, you know, if you like to work with a space of authenticity, or you're a very principled person, you're going to have trouble with it. I have trouble working like that. So when you put in the effort to act on what you really want, it shows commitment. And that is then rewarded by evidence that will show up by something happening out of the norm in your life. And how you will know it's evidence of something happening as a positive result because of the effort you put in to act, to show your commitment, okay? Your thing that shows up will make you feel really good. And then the more you act in any which way that you can, you will be rewarded with something else that feels good. And that feels good, result feels good, will lead to confidence. Are you following?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So there's a lot more about this, but, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I'm teaching actively at the moment in my little Facebook group called Free and Successful Women Who Make That Difference. Because people understand this, if they understand how they need to act, even if with what they have available to them, and we always have something available to them. We think of ourselves as people sometimes who don't have the this and the that we think we need. But once you can see past that, you understand that when you connect directly with the end goal energetically, you will immediately see what is available or possible for you. We are so resourceful, but we don't own it. So the more you act little things, the more universe rewards you with evidence. The more you feel good, the more you believe in the process, the more your intuition builds, and that creates a wonderful and healthy spiral for you to break. To break that lack of confidence.
Okay. No, that's amazing. So the last question for today would be, what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give other entrepreneurs, and what legacy would you like to leave? And how are people able to get in contact with
you? Okay. So the legacy is always an interesting question for me. And, you know, we think about kids and books and things like that. But I've often wondered, you know, because I always try not to leave anything but my footprint behind. I'm a very funny person that way. I don't spike my energy outwards and try to fill a room with me. You know, I just go through the world in my space, and I want to own my space. And then when I leave, I take what I left behind with me, and maybe it comes with all the transformations I've been through. But it's very important for me. So I find, for me, I will correct the energy wherever I am. So it doesn't always matter what I do. It matters what I feel and how I manage my own state. So being a change maker is often driven by passion and not by skill. So that's the first thing I would say to people. That means don't upskill to create change. Allow your passion and the joy and the love that you feel for something to drive your decisions. Okay?
Amazing.
And then the second thing I want to say to people is skills help you to drive quality, but it doesn't give you profits. Okay? So this is very important, because I found that in years of being an entrepreneur, every time I think I want to improve what I do, I will upskill instead of learning to become a better entrepreneur in my business. Okay? For that you need structures. So the third point I want to make is, to receive money, you need to be energetically aligned in your business model and in your business structures, because otherwise you can generate all the things that you want, but if you don't have the ability to receive, if you're not open to receive, not your best skills in the world will help you to benefit from the energy coming back to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So to me, those 3 things are vital for an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and at many different times I've done it for many different reasons, either to fit my schedule or to be an at-home mommy, or, you know, whatever the case might be. Eventually you come to the point where you say, if I don't make a profit, why be in business? You know, and that's the bottom line. So we got to get real about it. We got to get serious about our businesses. And that is an expression of us, like the clothes you wear. So to really experience the freedom of being successful, you need to embrace the channels of receiving in the structures of your business. And the problem with being successful is often that we do not have high enough standards. People are quick to say you don't value yourself, but what does that actually mean? You know, something we can work with that is more practical to say you don't have high enough standards. So if somebody doesn't pay you what you are worth, then up what you're asking.
Yes.
You know, make your boundaries even firmer about
Yes.
who you want to work with and who you definitely do not want to work with. And that puts your value where it matters. It puts your value on you.
Yes.
And it brings and draws better quality clients to you. So you cannot give what you do not have in the first place. So if you do not learn to put yourself first and fill your soul with energy-giving experiences, which is whatever it is that makes you happy in your heart, truly happy, not putting it on a selfie or a social media post, but really what fills your soul on the inside, stuff that gives you joy and happiness, then, you know, that's pointless. So for me, if as far as advice is concerned, that's definitely advice. If I get to leave a legacy, it will probably be on my tombstone one day. And the word that's been sticking with me is naked. You know, can you see me naked? Naked with Adele. And when I publish my poetry one day, it'll probably be say soul naked or something like that. Because for me, it's everything. Even the personality is our interface with the world. It's not who we are. We are so powerful. We are so magical. And my legacy, you know, I want to have 8 books published and work around that, but it's all in the same field. I had a vision many years ago, a dragonfly experience, and it was absolutely magical. It was soul deep for me. And it showed me how I will express myself. And, you know, that's the transformation model I work with. So there's an element of feminine leadership. There's an element, and that's really just being ourselves. That is the hardest work, not following anybody's map, and understanding the mirroring of relationships, so that will always be, for me, my go-to place for personal development and what I need to work on right now. And then there is the sensitivity, the intimacy, the way we experience the world intensely as empaths, actually, and as sensitives, and allowing ourselves to be there, because that is the biggest gift we can give the world, by holding our own state and by allowing other people to benefit from that, from us, or in our space automatically without even doing anything about it. And then the last part is, you know, your relationship with yourself. So for me, if I leave a legacy, it would be to put that in the world in a way that makes sense. It is something that I'm working on in a book, and I guess when one day with what I would leave behind are probably my books and whatever it is my children think about me. That's what it is to me.
Oh, that's amazing. And so how will people be able to get in contact with you?
Thank you for asking me, Karen. So, you know what I want to do is I actually have 100 affirmations. It's affirmations for women who want to be the source of their own abundance in their own business, who want to change the world, and I want to give them a gift. So on my website, www.adele, ADELE-green.com/affirmations. If they go to that link, they will find 100 affirmations that I use that work for me. And I say it daily, and I say it often. It helps me with my mind state. It helps me with my energy levels, keeping it up. And it's become part of me. So I want to share that with people. At the beginning, when I started in this business, I knew that our values create, you know, or our values are our filters, and that's how we see the world. And I knew that they were super important, but nobody could tell me what are the values that you need to embrace in order to be successful and to be free in your business. So these are especially for women who, you know, who are interested in this, and you will read through those and you will go, I don't know if I can own this. You know, I don't know if this is me. Where you feel the most resistance, that's where you got to work first. So I want to give people, please go and take that and embody it. So it's Adele-Green.com/affirmations. If people want to get hold of me, My email address is adele@lifephilosophy.co.za, or they can just go to my website and send me messages from anywhere on there. I am on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest. I am on Instagram. I am everywhere. So not hard to find.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Thank you, Karen, and those were wonderful questions. Very varied, covering lots of things in my life.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much.